This weekend, a new single-location, high-concept thriller from Christopher Landon named Drop drops in theaters. So let's talk about it. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comments section. Are you excited for Drop? If you've seen it, what did you think about it? As for me, this is one I was excited to check out because I enjoy most of Christopher Landon's films. I feel like he brings a fun, modern twist on a bunch of familiar genres. So I was excited to see what he was going to do with kind of one of these single location thrillers. Also, it's really important to note, I did see this movie at its world premiere at South by Southwest. That is the most exciting, fun environment to watch any movie. I was there with a bunch of my friends, a bunch of horror TikTokers, Cody Leach, and then the cast, the crew, they were all right there in the room. And it's a 1,200 seat theater, and so there's so much energy in the room. It really is the best environment to see a film. And I was invited to the after party where Michael Bay was there, so technically I can say I partied with Michael Bay, and I met the lead actor of the film. He was super excited to take a picture with me, and I worked the press junket where I was able to talk with the director of the film, Christopher Landon, and I'll incorporate some of the segments of that into this video. The reason I say all of that is that the way that you watch a movie absolutely shapes your feelings and thoughts surrounding it. I'm telling you, I watched it in the coolest possible environment. I met the lead actor and I interviewed the director. Of course, that will shape my opinion and provide a context where I'm more likely to be positive towards the film. But also, I have a long history of enjoying movies like this, so keep all of that in mind, and let's get started with the good. As for me, I just tend to really enjoy single location, pressure cooker thrillers, and that's exactly what this movie is. Essentially, it plays out in real time at like 90% of the movie taking place at just a single location, where two people go out on a first date, and while they're there, the girl starts receiving drops on her phone, hence the title of the movie, that are weird and creepy. And then it's revealed that the person dropping messages to her basically are trying to force her to do something evil while she is at the restaurant and on the date. And she's trying to figure out who it is, how can she get out of it. And it's just kind of a really enjoyable one of these what would you do kind of thrillers.
It was a page turner, you know, and this was one of those scripts where like I just plowed through it and I just needed to get to the end. I needed to know what was going to happen to this woman. And the urgency of it I thought was so cool. I loved how it felt Hitchcockian, but in a modern way, that it had kind of a 90s thriller vibe too. It was kind of hitting all these different sweet spots.
It's very much in the same vein as The Commuter, Nonstop, Carry On from last year, where there's a person being forced to do something and they're trying to figure out how to get out of it, what's kind of going on. If you like those types of movies, you'll probably have a good time with this film. I enjoy those types of movies, so I enjoyed this movie. But with Christopher Landon, one of the kind of things he's known for is blending genres and smashing things together a little bit. And in the case of this movie, it's basically a modern-day Hitchcockian thriller combined with a bad date movie, where you're trying to watch these two people on the date, all the awkward interactions between them, and it's all bad interactions because she's being forced to do something else. But you're doing these two things kind of at the same time, and it creates an interesting dynamic in the movie.
But what's interesting about it is that they're basically in two different movies, at least for the character's perspective.
Absolutely.
Of that he's in a bad date movie, and she's in the Hitchcockian thriller.
Yeah, I think you bring up a funny point, which is like, it feels like there's an alternate movie that's told from his point of view that's actually just a comedy. You know, here it's, first of all, I had two amazing actors, Meghann Fahy and Sklenar, and it's always a bit of a calculated risk when you make a movie and you don't get to like, you know, do these sort of like paired auditions.
So you didn't get to do that with this movie?
No, not at all. So I was operating on pure gut, on gut instinct, and also a body of work. Right? They both had really great work behind them. So what I try to do is encourage cast to spend time together, like off of set, or get to know each other before we start filming, just so that they can build a certain rapport with each other. And I even do that with them too. Like we do dinners and we do all these things together, so that everyone's really comfortable with each other.
And kind of the magic of the film is that you're seeing these two different movies and they have the chemistry between the two people, but there's such strange dynamics with all of it because you are merging genres in such a fun and interesting way. Likewise, Christopher Landon is kind of known for injecting some humor into his films and doing the horror comedies. And while this certainly isn't trying to be as lighthearted as something like Freaky or Happy Death Day, it adds in just the right amount of like awkward humor to it. In particular, there's a waiter character that's very eager and energetic that just cuts the tension just a little bit without breaking the important tension of having just a bit of levity in there, just a little bit of humor in the right ways and the right moments to make everything work. To what I just mentioned just a little bit ago, the movie kind of lives and dies on whether you buy into our two leads, that they're just interesting enough. They're not big flashy movie characters or anything like that, but you buy into the fact that these two people would be kind of interested in one another. In particular, I have to single out the lead actress here. She has to carry most of the dramatic weight of the film, both because she's the person being put in this impossible situation where she's has to act like she's having a good time while she's having the worst night of her life, and then get into these like very chaotic mindsets. And if you play out the way that they had to film some of this stuff, there's parts of it where we're seeing the character react to what she's reading on the phone, which means the actress is just kind of sitting there and having to, like, as images are appearing on the screen next to her for us, she is having to slowly like descend into the desperation of realization of the situation that she's in, and she's able to pull that off. But with her character, they also kind of go into some of the backstory with her and some things that happened beforehand as to kind of informs what's happening here. And once again, just has to go to very emotional, desperate places. And she's very believable in all of that. But then there's also these fun supporting characters, whether the people that are suspects in it, the humorous characters, the people supporting our lead lady and all of it. All of them kind of have just enough spark to them, just enough personality to make them interesting. Because it's a movie that only has a handful of people. It only has a handful of pieces that it can work with. It's really two people sitting at a table or one of them walking off to the counter and having a conversation. It's all about characters that you want to spend time with and performances that you can believe in with all of this. Other thing that when you have a movie like this that has so many constraints to it, that it both has a time constraint, it's told basically in real time, and a location constraint. It basically takes place all in this one restaurant. You only have so many tools and tricks that you can use along the way. And the movie knows that. So it doesn't linger on any one dynamic too long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's right at about 90 minutes long. And it has just enough at the beginning, just enough at the end to where our main stuff where we're in the restaurant, it's real tight. It changes the dynamics just enough. We have our introduction, the date part of it, the part where it starts to go wrong, the let's try to get out of this, the twists, the turns, the red herrings, the guessing, the final revelations, and kind of the crescendo of everything moves at just the right pace to where this movie with a fairly simple setup keeps you interested from beginning to end. Also, Christopher Landon brings just the right amount of style to it. With a film that you're really just watching two people at a table and looking around the room a lot or looking at a phone a lot, there's not all that much obvious cinematic flair to be had. And so he brings style into it. The way that it visualizes the drops on her phone, the DMs that she's getting, the way that it zeroes in on who they're suspecting, who they're looking at, the way that it does things where at times, like everything will fade to black except this one person. and just putting the attention of where their mind is at. Other times making her feel isolated in a crowded room. So there's like a creative flair to it that is always keeping you interested. So it's a good one of these types of films. If you like these single location, what would you do thrillers, this is a fun, modern date night spin on it. And if you're looking for a fun date night and like these types of movies, this is a movie that you should consider checking out. There are a few things that strain some credibility, so let's move on to the bad. And as I just said, the big issue with the film is you just have to be able to suspend enough disbelief. Do you want a movie about a girl on a date getting drops trying to get her to do something, or do you not want that? At the end of the day, it's a pretty ridiculous premise of like, would this really ever happen in real life? Well, of course it wouldn't happen in real life. So you have to be able to suspend that disbelief. But that does mean as you're watching the movie, as they start to do the revelations of what's going on, why is it happening, everything kind of like that, you kind of have to reach a point in time where you just have to accept the fact of like, yeah, the true villains here chose the least effective way to try and do what they're trying to do. They chose the most convoluted way to try and get away with the thing that they're trying to get away with. And their rationale for why they're doing it like this, it's like, well, certainly you could have come up with a plan that was more likely to succeed than this. This seems like a very difficult way to do what you're trying to do. That's the concession. You have to be able to accept that in order to have the fun of a movie with her receiving these messages on this date and everything like that. And, likewise with movies like this, when the twists, the turns, the reveals happen, there's certainly points in time where you start being like, hey, wait a minute, how did they pull all of this off? Would they have been able to, how would you be able to get that note into that place? How would this person be able to see this and get away with everything with nobody noticing? You have to be able to suspend the disbelief. That's the key thing with this movie, the ability to suspend a good bit of disbelief for those types of things. Other than that, and that's usually the case with these movies, that to buy into the premise, you have to be pretty forgiving of the logic of things. If you're able to do that, I think that this is a solid one of those movies. I'm able to do that, and so it delivered the experience that I wanted out of it. I've actually seen the movie twice already, and so one time was in the big flashy world premiere setting, and the second time was watching it kind of in a normal theater with just 25 people in it, not packed at all, and like the movie still worked really well. And in that context, in watching it a second time, it's kind of fun to realize all the misdirects and the tricks that it uses to push your attention in all the wrong places and things like that. So if you're looking for a date night movie and like these thrillers, check this one out. Overall, it's a B on the entertainment scale, a 7 out of 10. And if you like these movies, go see it on a date night. Be sure to check out my interview with Christopher Landon right over there. We dove into the making of the movie, Happy Death Day, the film industry in general. It was a lot of fun. And thank you so much for watching. Keep talking movies and TV.